My name is Maris Ellington, 32 years old. I learned that the difference between help and harm can be a single sentence said over steak. It was my mother's birthday. Rare to have everyone in one room without a crisis. The table looked like a magazine spread. Candles, roses, the good plates that only see air once a year. I'd come straight from work, still smelling like copier heat and rain, with a small envelope in my purse that I'd planned to tuck into Mom's hand on the way out. I'd told myself this year I wouldn't scan my sister's face for relief or panic, wouldn't whisper, "Do you need rent? Do the girls have shoes?" I'd told myself to be a daughter tonight, not a wallet. Conversation was mild at first. Work, the kids, a cousin's divorce we pretended not to enjoy. Then Emily, sitting across from me, wrist draped in a bracelet I'd never seen, cut into her steak and said it like she was reading a weather report. Hawaii was unreal. I thought she was joking, or planning, or dreaming with her eyes open. But she chewed, smiled, and kept going. Private beach, all inclusive. The spa? I've never felt more relaxed in my life. The room shifted, like someone tilted the floor a degree. I stared, waiting for the part where she explained how. Emily took a sip of wine and added, bright with laughter. And the best part? The girls stayed with Mom and Dad the whole time. I actually got to enjoy myself. I leaned in. You went to Hawaii. She nodded, slow, like she was humoring me. With what money? I asked. She blinked. Yours. Silence barreled through the room. My mother's fork stalled midair. My father pretended to read the label on the wine bottle like it had a map out of here. The money I sent, I said carefully, for rent, for groceries, for the girls. Emily rolled her eyes. Relax. The kids are fine. They had fun here. I needed a break. I deserve to be happy too. A laugh scratched my throat and died there. So, instead of paying the bills you told me were drowning you, struggling emotionally, she corrected. I can't be a struggling single mom forever. That's how I met Jacob. Her smile turned glossy. He's amazing. Owns a business. Drives a Tesla. My cousin muttered, on Maris's miles, but the joke felt like broken glass. I glanced at my nieces in the corner, knees pressed together, wearing the same soft, thinning sweaters they'd worn last month. I had pictured my money covering light and heat and new sneakers that didn't flop at the heel. Instead, it paid for a resort bracelet and a chance to flirt with a man who calls himself self-made and has assistants schedule his laughter. I gave you money, I said, keeping my voice level, because you said you were scraping by. I was, she said, smoothing her napkin. Then I wasn't. Isn't that the point? Jacob is successful, mature, exactly what I've been looking for. My hands were under the table, fists without knowing it. How much of what I sent went to Hawaii? All of it would be a weird question, she said breezily. Some, enough. Don't be dramatic. Don't say that, I said quietly. There it was, the old script, the one where she's helpless and I'm hysterical if I notice. My dad finally looked up. Maris, don't start. My mother added, she's trying to rebuild her life, find a good man. You want to punish her for that? I exhaled a laugh. That wasn't humor. By lying? By using my help to chase a lifestyle while her kids wear hand-me-downs? She's your sister, my father said, like a judge gaveling without hearing a case. Yes, I said, turning to him, and I'm your daughter, but that never stopped you from letting her take and calling it love. Emily crossed her arms. Fine, I won't do it again. Happy? No, I said, standing. I'm done. The chair legs scraped the floor, a sound too loud for a birthday. Dad's hand slammed the table. How dare you say no to your own sister? Mom's voice rose, wet with performative mercy. You can't keep punishing us because you make more money. We are family. I'm not punishing anyone, I said, steady now. I'm closing a tap that never should have been open. I pulled out my phone. The banking app blinked up at me. The transfer stopped tonight. My mother gasped, like air had left the room. And the car note, I added. My voice surprised me for being so calm. The one I've been covering for almost a year, I'm canceling that too. The room erupted. Mom bolted up, tears already forming their careful path. I won't survive without that car. Dad's face reddened. Emily's expression slid from shock to rage like an eclipse. I picked up my purse. I'll walk myself out. In the entryway mirror, I caught my face. The one I use in meetings when someone takes credit for work I did. Not hard, just done. The door closed behind me to the sound of my name being used like an accusation. Outside, the air was cool and clean. My phone vibrated. Noah. Breathe, he said when I answered. Noah has the kind of voice that sits beside you on a curb instead of trying to drag you inside. They used it, I said. Hawaii. With my money, and my parents backed her. I'm sorry, he said. You knew it would happen eventually. It just hurts more when the mask drops in public. He paused. Do I need to come get you? No, I said. I can get home. He hesitated. Ava DM'd me. She still follows Emily. She liked some weird caption earlier, something about finally finding the lifestyle you deserve. I blocked it. Just be careful. I am careful, I said. I'm also done. When I hung up, night had settled like a verdict. I got in the car and drove, hands shaking, the kind of trembling that happens when your body realizes before your brain does. You were not helping. You were being harvested. At home, I sat in the dark and watched the banking app until the screen blurred, line by line, 2 years of I got you, rolling off like rain from a roof I paid for. I canceled Emily's rent transfer, her utilities, the just-in-case cushion for the kids, then the car payments. One by one, the auto drafts died. My phone lit up like a slot machine losing control. Emily. What the hell, Maris? My rent just bounced. Fix it. Mom. Answer me. This is killing me. Dad. You're out of your mind. I put the phone face down and listened to my heartbeat thunk against the quiet. The screen kept flashing through the wood like a lighthouse for a ship I didn't want to save anymore. Somewhere between the 7th and 8th vibration, I realized what I'd really done tonight. Not just canceled payments. I'd canceled permission. I turned the phone over and typed one message to all three. I won't finance lies. Take care of your responsibilities. I'll take care of mine. I hit send. Then I turned off notifications. The apartment went very still. For the first time in 2 years, the silence didn't feel like neglect. It felt like oxygen. The first night after I shut the faucet off, my phone behaved like an emergency beacon. Banners stacked. Names I knew better than my own. I let them ring. I let them run out of breath. At 12:11 a.m., Emily again. You can't do this. My card declined at the pharmacy. The girls need toothpaste. Toothpaste was the new rent, I guess, small enough to make me feel monstrous. I typed, erased, typed again, then sent. You had money for a luxury resort. You can buy toothpaste. Noah called once, just once. Leave the phone in another room, he said. If they can reach your nerves, they can reach your wallet. I put the phone on the kitchen counter and walked away like it was a hot pan. By morning, the messages had evolved from panic to performance. Mom, my heart can't take this stress. I might end up in the hospital. Dad, you made a commitment. Be an adult. Emily, I'm calling the landlord. If I get evicted, I'll tell him it's your fault. I made coffee and watched the steam climb the light like a brave thing. The first sip was bitter, too strong, and still better than the last 2 years. By noon, the door knocking started. Fast, familiar, intentional. I looked through the peephole. Mom and Emily, arms crossed, practice choreography. I took one breath, then opened the door. Because some part of me still believes in diplomacy. We need to talk, Mom said, pushing past me into the living room. Emily slammed the door behind her like a period. Good morning to you too, I said. Mom didn't sit. She'd learned that sitting softens a fight. Undo it. Undo what? The transfers. The car. Everything. Your father is furious. I can barely breathe. She touched her chest like she was listening to her own heart perform. Emily threw her hands up. You're being unhinged, Maris. I have bills. The girls need a home. You mean the same girls you dropped here so you could sip Mai Tais with a man who evaluates women like stock? Her jaw twitched. It was one trip. Paid for with my money, I said. Money you told me kept your lights on. Mom cut in, voice softening like a trap. Listen, I understand you're upset, but you don't abandon family, especially your mother. I stared. Abandon? I paid thousands over 2 years. I paid your car note. I covered every emergency Emily invented. I didn't abandon anyone. I stopped being available for extraction. Emily stepped closer, chin up. You're my sister. You're supposed to help me. Not like this, I said. Not to fund auditions for a richer life. Mom's expression darkened. If you don't help her, What do you expect us to do? End up on the street? I exhaled. You're adults. Make adult choices. Sell the car you can't afford. Downsize. Ask Jacob, the entrepreneur. Emily's voice dropped an octave. I swear, if you don't fix this, you'll what? I asked. Lie to me again? Or send another boyfriend to my door to teach me a lesson? Something flickered behind her eyes, guilt or calculation, hard to tell. Get out, I said, opening the door. They stared like they weren't built to hear that word from me. After a beat that stretched too long, they walked out. I locked the door slowly, feeling each notch of the deadbolt catch like a decision finally made. I told myself it was over. It wasn't. At 10:03 p.m., there was another knock. Single, steady, patient. I knew the cadence, my mother's last-ditch rhythm. When I opened the door, she slipped inside with a dramatic hush, as if grief could be quiet if we pretended. It's about me this time, she said, and pulled a small bottle from her purse, white plastic, rattling. My stomach fell. What are you doing? She twisted the cap with trembling fingers, eyes glossy. Maybe if I weren't here, you would feel something about what you've done. I closed the space between us and took the bottle from her hand. Sleep aids, over the counter, harmless in dose, dangerous in suggestion. Performance medicine. Mom, I said, breath shaking, don't even pretend with this. Don't weaponize your life to buy mine. Her tears stopped cleanly, like a faucet. Her face hardened into the shape she uses with telemarketers. Undo it, she said, nails biting my wrist. Right now. I pried her hand off, opened the door. Go home. Her voice dropped to a whisper built for haunted houses. If I land in a hospital bed, it's on you. I didn't answer. She left. I sat on the floor until the thudding in my wrist turned back into a pulse. The text returned with new vocabulary. Emily. Mom said you assaulted her. Dad. You're dead to me. A minute later, my phone lit with Noah. Don't read them, he said. Move your body. Reset your brain chemistry. I paced the apartment like a caged animal until the walls became hallways and my breath stopped stuttering. Morning tried to be normal and failed. Subject line, urgent. HR complaint. The email sat in my inbox like a snake pretending to be a rope. An anonymous report alleges misuse of corporate resources and expense irregularities. Please join us for a meeting. My first thought was absurd. They wouldn't. My second thought was truer. They already did. I called my boss directly. I just saw the email. I can come in now. He sounded tired. Honestly, Maris, it didn't read like you. Let's clear it up. After I hung up, I stared at the wall until the paint looked wet. A line had been crossed so quietly it made no sound, from manipulation to sabotage. I pulled up 2 years of statements, her screenshots, receipts, a record of the ways I'd been honest even when it hurt. I packed a folder like armor. When I looked down, my phone had new notifications. Noah had texted a screenshot, Emily's public post, a vague meme about monsters wearing angel faces. Ava had liked it. Noah added, blocked. Also, Ava once did freelance for a marketing firm Jacob contracts with. Careful who's anonymous. A cold clarity slid in. My family wasn't just messy. They were networked. I was halfway out the door when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. A woman's voice, bright and brittle. Hi, is this Maris? This is Ava. We've never met, but I'm friends with Emily online. I just wanted to say I'm sure this is a misunderstanding, and if you're struggling emotionally... I ended the call. I didn't owe the past a single minute of my new hour. Outside, the morning felt like it had teeth. I locked the door and started the car. My hands didn't shake this time. On the drive, my mind spooled out the last 2 years like film. The small humiliations, the guilt receipts, the way I had apologized for not drowning fast enough. I realized something simple and mean. Help had become my habit. Their crisis was my cue. And like any habit, it wasn't going to quit without withdrawals. At a stoplight, I breathed in for 4, held for 4, out for 6, the way Noah taught me. The red bled to green. I kept going. In the HR conference room, I laid out my records in careful rows. Calm voice, clean numbers, no story, just facts. It was almost peaceful. the relief of math after months of theater. When we finished, my boss closed his notebook. "We're good," he said. "We'll document this and move on." Move on. 2 words I hadn't believed I'd get to keep. But I wasn't done. If Emily wanted to turn my life into content, I would give her a final scene, documented, time-stamped, signed. I drove straight to my parents' house. Dad was in the den, TV loud enough to pretend I didn't exist. Emily was on the couch, scrolling with the relaxed posture of someone who thinks chaos is a job other people do. Mom came from the kitchen, eyes already adjusting into sympathy. "Maris," she said carefully, "you should have called." I held up my folder. "You tried to get me fired." Emily didn't flinch. "You can't prove it was me." "Maybe not you alone," I said, "but I can prove patterns, language, timing, where the complaint routed." I let that hang. Jacob's firm's public domain had been sloppy once, and the metadata screenshot Noah forwarded told a quiet story. Try me. I turned to my parents. "And you let it happen because you prefer a daughter you can withdraw from to a daughter you have to respect." Dad waved a hand. "If you had kept helping, none of this. Stop pretending blackmail is family," I said. "Listen carefully. If any of you contact me again, if you send someone to my home, my office, my inbox, I file a police report. I have screenshots, texts, call logs, the pill bottle, everything." Silence spread, thin and wide. For once, Mom didn't cry. For once, Emily looked like someone had turned off her comments. Dad's jaw worked, but no sound came out. I put a single page on the coffee table, my written boundary with dates, places, and consequences. "This is your last notification," I said. "Choose peace." No one moved. I walked to the door, felt the old ache try to climb my throat, and kept going. In the driveway, my phone buzzed. Noah. "How'd it go?" "Quiet," I said. "The loudest kind." "I'm proud of you," he said. "Come by later. I'll cook something terrible on purpose so you have something to correct." I laughed, small and real. "See you tonight." As I pulled away, a final text lit the screen from an unknown number I didn't need to read to understand. I blocked it. The road opened like a vein. For the first time, I felt something close to calm, not the absence of conflict, but the presence of a spine. Tomorrow would bring whatever it brought, but tonight I would sleep. The next morning, sunlight spilled through my blinds like it was testing me. Too bright, too confident for someone still learning to unclench. I made coffee and sat on the couch, scrolling through messages I hadn't yet deleted. Each one was a small piece of theater: guilt, rage, love rewritten as leverage. I deleted them all, one by one. Noah texted around 10. "You okay?" I typed back, "Mostly quiet." He replied, "Quiet's a victory. Don't let them rename it loneliness." I smiled at that, because that's what they'd always done. Told me solitude meant failure, told me that without family, I'd end up hollow. But the hollow they warned me about? It felt like space, like oxygen. 2 hours later, an email buzzed my phone. Subject line, "Follow up on HR incident." My stomach knotted, but this time, not from fear. I already knew what it was. When I opened it, the body of the message confirmed everything I'd suspected. The anonymous complaint had been traced. It wasn't a coworker, it wasn't random. It was submitted through a personal Gmail, one tied to a freelance marketing account belonging to Jacob's firm. And in the attachments, a name I hadn't expected, Ava Serrano, Noah's ex. The message thread showed Ava forwarding something to Jacob's assistant 3 days earlier. This should help her calm down. The attached document? The fake HR report against me? For a long time, I just stared at the screen. Emily had looped in my boyfriend's ex to sabotage my job. Ava had passed the weapon to Jacob, and Jacob had executed it like a favor. It was so absurd it almost felt like satire, like a bad family comedy where everyone learns a lesson in the last 5 minutes. Only this wasn't ending in hugs and credits. This was ending in truth. I forwarded the chain to myself, printed it, and slipped the papers into the same folder Ron once helped me label evidence. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it yet, but I knew what I wouldn't do: stay silent. Noah called minutes later, voice low and deliberate. "I saw the metadata. It's her, isn't it?" "It's all of them," I said. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "Ava must have thought She thought she was still relevant. Silence hummed between us. Do you want me to handle it? He asked. No, I said. If I let you, it becomes another rescue story. I've played that role too long. When I hung up, I stared at the folder again. It looked small, but it carried 2 years of misplaced loyalty and 1 week of war. By evening, I drove back to my parents' house for the last time. I didn't knock. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. They never imagined I'd come uninvited. Dad was in the recliner, pretending the TV was more interesting than me. Mom was in the kitchen, stirring something just to fill the silence. Emily sat at the table scrolling, phone in hand, like a shield. When she saw me, she smiled. So, you found out. I said nothing. I heard HR drop the complaint, she continued. Guess they didn't find it credible. Because I proved it wasn't, I said. She shrugged. People make mistakes. People? I asked. Or conspiracies. Mom's voice wobbled from the stove. Don't start this again, Maris. Again? I said, stepping closer. This started when you let her weaponize my name, when you all decided family meant access, not respect. Emily leaned back, eyes gleaming. You've always been dramatic. Maybe you should thank me. You're finally interesting. You're right, I said. I am, because interesting people stop repeating the same cycle. I opened the folder and spread the printed emails on the table. Jacob's signature, Ava's forward, the timestamps. Dad looked uneasy. What is this? Evidence, I said. You wanted to know why I stopped helping. Now you'll know why I stopped trusting. Mom reached for the papers. I pulled them back. Don't bother, I said. You wouldn't understand the headers anyway. She flinched, not from the insult, but from hearing me speak without fear. Emily scoffed. You really think anyone's going to care? You're making this bigger than it is. It's exactly as big as it is, I said. You crossed into my work, my name, my survival. That's not family. That's fraud. Dad stood, his voice sharp. Don't threaten your sister. I'm not threatening her, I said. I'm documenting her. Silence. Then Mom finally asked, What do you want? Nothing, I said. That's the point. I gathered the papers, slid them back into the folder, and walked toward the door. As I turned the knob, Emily called after me, You'll regret this, Maris. You always come back. I looked over my shoulder. Not this time. You burned the bridge and built a billboard on the ashes. Outside, the air hit my face like a new kind of cold. My phone buzzed again. Noah, I answered. It's done. He exhaled. Then so are they. That night, I didn't dream. When I woke, I knew exactly what the next move would be. Not revenge, not exposure, just distance. I called a recruiter in another state. A week later, I accepted a new position. Clean salary, clean address, no ghosts in the area code. I boxed up my apartment in silence. No tears, no music. Just the sound of tape sealing a future they couldn't touch. When I sold the last piece of furniture, I stood in the empty room and realized how much of my life had been built to accommodate other people's comfort. No more. As the sun set, Noah stopped by to help load the car. You sure? He asked quietly. Yes, I said. It's time to start living for someone who finally chose me. He smiled. You mean yourself. Exactly. He handed me one final envelope, a printed copy of the HR closure report. Just in case, he said. I folded it neatly into the folder labeled Evidence, and then I wrote a new label on the spine, Closure. When we reached the state line 2 days later, I rolled down the window and let the wind take my last voicemail notifications, those blinking red dots of unfinished guilt. They disappeared into the highway air, small and weightless. For the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty for surviving. I just felt alive.